Okay, I've rethreaded my thread and now I want to start again. So I'm going to come back to where I was, a stitch or two, and I'm going to pull that knot so that it's in the fold and I can continue stitching. Now as I approach a curve, I want you to notice what I'm going to do with my right hand. I'm going to turn this under, but instead of just turning it under straight, I'm going to pivot a little bit. And that's going to make the fold of the fabric turn into a curve. Let me do that again. I'm going to grab it, pivot a little bit, and that makes the curve. One more time. Grab it, pivot a little bit, and it makes the curve. And the more gentle the curve is, the more gentle the pivot is, the sharper the curve is, like for a little circle, the more drastic I'm going to pivot and actually work around my thumbnail. Speaking of thumbnails, if you bite your nails, that's okay, but you need that thumbnail. It's almost as important as the needle that you use. So stop biting your thumb. Okay, I'm approaching the inside point on this heart. I call this an innie. Notice that I'm still going into the background, slightly under the fold, coming forward a little, coming out the fold. When I pull, my stitch disappears. All right, as I approach the inside point, I can no longer at some point turn under the seam allowance. So at that spot, then I have to say, okay, I need to clip that. And I'm going to clip right in here. I'm going to make a clip right into the deepest part of that point. And then I'm going to continue to turn under the seam allowance. And remember the pivot. As I go around a curve, I move my hand a little bit in order to pivot around, and I bring the fabric around my thumbnail. Now at some point, there's no seam allowance to be able to grab with the needle. So at that time, I have to get that turned under as best I can, and so I use the needle and swipe away from me, and that continues the turn under. And I do that until I get to the very center. And then I'm going to stitch right into the deepest part of the heart. This is where it is definitely important that your needle or your thread matches your applique, because see how you're going to start seeing the stitches. And if you take an extra stitch right in there, whoops, and pull that tight, that's going to make a nice sharp point. Okay, then we're ready to go up the other side. I'm going to turn this under, bring it down, make that stitch again, and head on up the side. I'd kind of like to show you too what's happening underneath. Oh, I'm about to lose my thread. I want to show you how I have my fingers underneath. I keep them fairly straight. As I'm stitching, my finger, this middle finger is directly under what I'm stitching, and it's holding the bottom of the fabric while my thumb opposes on the top, and my needle is what is manipulating the fold.